This video introduces signed numbers, positive and negative numbers. So let's introduce some vocab words here. So first of all, a signed number are numbers that are positive and negative, including 0. So anything positive, anything negative is a signed number. Okay, next we have integers. And integers are all the whole numbers. So 0, 1, 2, integers, 0, 1, 2, 3, and also all their opposites. So -1, -2, -3. Then we have positive numbers. And positive numbers we know are the numbers that are greater than 0. And numbers that are less than 0 are called negatives. So if we take a look at example 1 here, it says 5 degrees below 0. So if the temperature was below 0, we would know because we would write it with one of these symbols here. And that symbol here just represents that it's less than 0 degrees. It's 5 degrees less than 0. If we take a look at example 2, it says 20 feet below sea level. So if we're below the ground, below sea level just means below the ground. So we're under the ground. To represent that we're not 20 feet above the ground and that we're 20 feet below, we would also use a negative number to represent that. And then example 3 says that we have a profit of $20. So to show that we have a profit, we would use a positive number. We do not need to put a plus sign in front. It is guaranteed positive if we don't have a symbol in front of it. So to compare numbers that are positive and negative, we can use a number line. And a number line lists numbers from least to greatest. So these numbers are smaller, and these numbers on the right side are bigger. So as you can see, we have 0 here, and then we have all the negatives, and then we have all the positives here. So what you should see is that -8 is smaller than -7. So the bigger the number, when it has a negative symbol, though, makes it smaller in value. So let's go ahead and practice writing numbers from least to greatest. Okay, so for example 4, first of all, the negatives are smaller. So we have this negative and we have this negative. And since 8 is bigger, since it's negative, it's going to be less. And so we were asked to write it in least to greatest. So this is the least number, and this side will be the greatest. So the smallest number is -8. And when you're comparing negatives and positives, just think about money. I would not want to owe $8. So that's why it is the least value. And I also would not want to owe $4. But I would rather owe 4, because this would mean I would have more money if I gave someone $4 versus if I gave someone 8. Then I'm going to cross it out so I remember I've already included it in my list. And then the next thing I see I have 0. And having nothing is smaller than having 2, 6, or 5. So then the next smallest number would be the 2. And then the 5, and then the 6. So go ahead and pause the video now and try number 5 on your own. Okay, so we're going to write these numbers from least to greatest. And first of all, they're all negatives, so we have to look for the biggest one. So the biggest one is 70, and because it's negative, it is less in value. And then I'm going to cross it out. And then the next biggest negative number is 54, but because it's negative, it's actually less in value. And then next is negative 35. And then we have negative 32, negative 19, and lastly, the greatest number is negative 9. And the reason why this is the greatest is because if I gave away 9, I would have more than somebody who gave away $70. When we see a negative symbol, it stands for the word opposite. So think about it. If I had $4 to show someone I don't, that's what this means. A negative symbol means I have the opposite of $4. So in math, when we see two negatives next to each other, they negate each other and make a positive. So if we take a look at example 11 here, this is saying this symbol here means opposite. And it's saying what is the opposite of negative 5? So the opposite of negative 5 is just 5. So another way to think about it is this negative right here, when it distributes into the parentheses here, it makes it opposite. So it's going to make this a positive 5 here. Let's go ahead and take a look at example 12. So this is saying what is the opposite of negative 50? And the opposite of negative 50 is 50. So again, two negatives next to each other like that, it's going to make it a plus, a positive number. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is an absolute value symbol. So an absolute value of a number is a number's distance from 0. And when we're talking about distance, distance is always something positive. So no matter what, absolute value is always going to equal a positive value. No matter what. Because distance is always positive. So what these vertical lines right here mean, it's different than this. These over here, if you look at example 11 and example 12, these are parentheses. Okay, so in numbers 11 and 12, they had parentheses. But now these are vertical lines, and that means make the number inside positive. So instead of negative 4, it's going to come out a positive 4. Now the reason being is, here's a number line and here's negative 4. It's asking you, these vertical lines here ask you, how far is this point from 0? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 away. I think I had the dot on the wrong spot. Let me fix that here. So here's the negative 4, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4 away. Now that I'm on the right dot, so that's why the answer is positive 4. So now let's go ahead and take a look at number 14. It says, what is the absolute value of 8? So that is asking you, how far is 8 from 0? So here's 8 on the number line, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8 away. So the absolute value is 8. And again, it has the vertical lines, so that's how I know it's telling me to make the number inside positive, come out positive. Okay, let's look at one more here. This one is saying, how far is negative 6 from 0? What's the absolute value of negative 6? Okay, so here's negative 6, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is 6 away from 0. Again, it makes the number come out positive. Okay, so number 17 here, notice they have parentheses. And because it has parentheses, what this is saying is what is the opposite of negative 30. In other words, because it has two negatives like this, it's going to make a positive 30. Let's take a look at number 18. Number 18, however, has vertical lines. So what the vertical lines mean is how far is negative 5 from 0? So here's negative 5, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 away. So we're going to solve this first, which it's 5, and then we're going to bring this down. So we get negative 5. So this negative out here, we cannot, it is incorrect to do this. Make that a positive. We can't do that because we have to solve this first. So once we solve this first, the absolute value of negative 5 is 5, then that negative just gets brought down. So that is how we get negative 5 for the answer for number 18. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 19. So again, we first need to do the absolute value first. So that's asking us, make that number inside positive. And then we're going to bring down the negative. So we get negative 23. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do next is go ahead on a separate sheet of paper, do the following problems to see if you understand this absolute value in parenthesis notation. So pause the video, and then when you are done completing numbers 1 through 4, push play and see if you got them right. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and give you the answers so you could see if you got these 4 problems right. So the distance of 4, that is 4, so you should have gotten 4 for number 1. Number 2, this is saying the opposite of negative 3, so that would equal 3. And this one, the distance of 5 from 0 is 5, but then this negative is going to be brought over, so you would have negative 5. And then here we would do the absolute value of negative 6 is 6, and then this gets brought over, so we would get negative 6 for that one.